What's up, Canes fans? This is D Money with the Canes Insight Daily podcast coming to you every day, 5 days a week, plus instant reactions, all kinds of coverage, powered by Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. We got a loaded show for you today. We're going to be talking about the NFL draft, the combine. Pete has collected some information from some scouting sources that he has from his time as an agent, give you exclusive info on Miami's prospects. We'll compare to some of the kids that Cristobal signed at other stops. We'll talk Canes basketball, Canes baseball, Xavier Restrepo's incredible catch, and a bunch of other stuff. First, I want to talk about Anajar and Levine Accident Attorneys. If you've been injured, someone you care about's been injured, you want the absolute best in expertise. You don't want someone that just passed the bar. You want someone who's been around the block. Call 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733 and deal with experts. Deal with vets. No rookies. Anajar and Levine, they will get you the compensation that you deserve. And best of all, they don't get paid until you get paid. You don't get paid, they don't get paid. You guys are linked. So call up Anajar and Levine and take back control of your life. Also want to talk about Caneswear. Wearing my shirt here, the Florida Marlins throwback, which I got at Caneswear last week in the store. It was an awesome experience. Best customer service. You can go to the Caneswear thread on the CanesInSight.com forum. So many personal stories of what people have experienced at Caneswear. It is a special place. Brett, the whole team out there does an extremely good job of making you feel at home. And if you're a Canes fan or Miami sports fan, you are at home when you're at Caneswear at Davie. And if you're far away, feel like you're at home by going to Caneswear.com and ordering some of the gear, really all the gear available at Caneswear.com, including Marlins, Heat, Dolphins, Inter Miami, and of course, all kinds of Miami Hurricanes as the bread and butter. All right. Before we get started talking about the specifics of the combine and some of the info Pete's hearing, I wanted to leave you with this as I went through the numbers. It is very possible, if not probable, that 6 players who Mario Cristobal signed out of high school are going to be drafted before the first Miami Hurricane gets drafted in the NFL draft. Go through the list. Jackson Powers-Johnson, Troy Franklin, Kingsley Suataya, Brandon Dorless, Trey Benson, DJ James. These are guys that Cristobal signed out of high school that probably going to get drafted day 1, day 2, top 100. Miami may not have a player selected on the first 2 days of the draft. If that doesn't tell you the difference in what Mario Cristobal has been doing from an evaluation standpoint, from a talent procurement standpoint, and just general recruiting compared to what Miami's been doing the last couple of years, I don't know what to tell you. But as we were going through preparing for this, I noticed that, and I could not believe the contrast between what Cristobal's been doing and what Miami's been doing in terms of identifying physical talents with the ability to play on Sundays and make an impact on Sundays. All right, so let's run down the Miami Combine results. The Combine was this past weekend, and Miami did not have a great day, unfortunately. We're going to get into some of those results. Doesn't mean these guys can't be great players. Doesn't mean they're not going to have great careers, but it was not a great athletic, physical display by Miami's prospects that some of us were hoping for and that you want to see from a championship-level program. So let's start with Cam Kitchens, Miami's best prospect, All-America. 5'11", 203, the measurements, 4'6", 40, 35-inch vert, 9 and 2-inch broad jump. Moving on to James Williams, who, of course, worked out with the safeties, but could potentially be a linebacker. 6'4", 231, great size, obviously. 4'6", 30-inch vert, 9 and 9-inch broad. Leonard Taylor, 6'3", 303, 5'12", 40, 176 split, 30 vert, 9 and 1-inch broad, 7.81 cone. Javion Cohen, 6'4", 324, 26.5-inch vert, 8 and 8-inch broad. And Matt Lee was probably the best athletic tester of the day. 6'4", 301, 503 40, 176 split, 31-inch vert, 9 and 3 broad jump. So that's a lot of numbers, but to give you some context as to what those numbers mean and how these guys are stacking up on the board, I want to kick it to Pete, who, as you may know, spent some time as an agent, represented first-round pick Titus Howard, has connections in the football side of things, the NFL industry. So he knows where these guys stack and what's being said about them, not in the media necessarily, but behind closed doors in NFL offices. So, Pete, I will kick it to you back there, and you tell me what you're hearing about Miami's prospects.
The first thing I'll say is this, D. Mock drafts are not draft grades from teams, from scouts, right? So we've been seeing these mock drafts come out since before the season, since summertime, right? And once the season goes through, obviously there's more mock drafts that come out. There's more information that's gathered. But these mock drafts are a lot of times done by people who, are completely projecting, as the scouts project as well, but they aren't necessarily basing what they see off of, basing their mock drafts off of scouts info, right? So a guy like Cam Kitchens, for example, I think more realistically for months, since the season has started, second to third round range was more likely where he was going to end up, because there was an expectation, and scouts didn't see him going out there and running a 4.4 or anything like that, right? There was an understanding that the physical testing may not be a strong suit. Now, obviously didn't put up good numbers at all, as we are going to get into and we've already discussed. But at the end of the day, the fact that he still went out there, and the other piece of info is that he was not 100% from what I understand, and scouts know that now, that he went out there and ran on an ankle, from what I'm told, not 100%. Like I said, most of the time guys go out there to the combine and they're looking for any excuse not to run. So scouts, knowing that he still went out there and ran through not being 100%, a lot of the feedback I've gotten on that is, look, it just goes to show you, it confirms character-wise and as a football player what he is, right? So I think third round is probably where Cam goes off the board. Blew it out of the water in the interview process, and still has another opportunity, right, to test at Pro Day. Hopefully is closer to 100% there and does better than he did at the NFL Combine. Next up, James Williams. By the numbers in his safety group, obviously did not stack up well testing-wise, but you understand his role is going to be as more of an in-the-box safety, more of a linebacker. I think the question is, the scouts are trying to figure out is, look, we want to project him here because his skill set could be really, really dangerous there. But we haven't seen that on film. We haven't seen the consistent physicality, the consistency as a tackler, right, as a striker, which is what he's going to be playing up near the line of scrimmage, right, matching up with tight ends, things of that nature. So the film needs to match what they want him to be, right? So again, just looking side by side by other safeties, testing was not good, but you have to really match it up against some of those linebackers or box safeties, right? So for him, I think probably 5th to 7th round, someone will take a chance on his skill set, but still questions about how it's going to translate. It's going to take a scheme-specific team that takes him, right, and really thinks they can put him in a role. And we all know what his upside, his ceiling is, but hopefully a team's able to just get the most out of him at the next level there. Javion Cohen is a very interesting one, obviously, as an offensive lineman. Went to the Senior Bowl, had a good week out there. At testing, did not run, went through the field work, which from what I was told did a good job there. I think that kind of like the question is, and look, this is what the draft process is about, right? Really trying to find out, learn about the individual, figure out, how he's going to kind of combat when things aren't going his way necessarily. And I'm not saying that's what it is with Cohen, but they're trying to find out about the character with all these guys, right? So I think the question is, he's at Alabama, was first team all conference. Again, why do you leave Alabama to go to Miami? Obviously, did a great job. Alex Mirabal did a great job with him this last year. Jim Nagy, head of the Senior Bowl, said he was developed. So that's was a positive for him. But I think they're just really trying to figure out why leave Alabama. And look, he's going to get drafted 100%. Athletic offensive linemen like him are few and far between. There's a scarcity of them. But I think continuing to just go through the interview process and figuring out about him on and off the field is what is going to make or break him here in the process. Talent all there. Let's see what teams, how much they can project him to be a guy right away and be a pro right away. That's a lot of what this is about, is can you come in and make an impact immediately for us? Matt Lee, let me get to Leonard Taylor first. Obviously did not have a productive year on the field. Before the season, I talked to people who told me he does stuff as an interior pass rusher, and he has ability as an interior pass rusher that you don't find guys like that lying around, right? So we know the upside as a pass rusher. Does he give it every 100% every play? Does he have that motor? Those are the questions these scouts have tried to figure out. Did not test well, and that was something that he kind of had in his back pocket, is understanding that the production was not there, the film wasn't there this year, but I can still hang my hat on going out there and testing at a very high level. That was not the case for him. Again, has an opportunity at pro day here, but not sure how much he's going to be able to change from the performance that he went out there and put up. And again, someone will take him late, 5th, 6th, 7th round. I think probably closer to 6th to 7th round there for him, because again, he has abilities that not everyone has. But it's really going to take a coach can bring him under his wing and try to get that dog out of him, right? So someone will take a chance on him because of that. But when you're talking about draft investments, I don't think that many teams are looking to take him as a top 3 to 4 round guy at this point. Still an opportunity to change things, has the pro day, but that's kind of where things stand with him. Matt Lee, awesome day of testing. For him, he has a couple things going against him. One, being a center. There's only 32 starting centers in the league. A lot of times these backups now are hybrid, guys who can play some guard as well as center. Matt Lee is a guy who is pretty much only a center. He's not going to be able to play guard at that next level. And just the medical side, that's another kind of background that always gets checked with every single player. Just there might be some concerns on him. That he's going to be able to stay completely healthy for more than a few years. But I will tell you this, he's a guy who, when there are these injury concerns that teams have, medicals, I will say, they're making an investment. But that's not to say he can't get drafted late, get an opportunity in a camp. He has all the ability to play there. If the medical was clean, he'd be a mid-round guy, no doubt about it, right? But if he can get into a camp, stay healthy, teams won't have any objection to giving him a multi-year deal if he comes in, plays, starts a couple years from now when he's up, right? They won't. If he's shown he's healthy and he doesn't have any issues physically, then he could have a long career in the league. The question is just getting over that for him. But again, awesome day of testing for him. I think probably late round to undrafted for him, a priority free agent, right? If that's the case for him, he'll have plenty of suitors that would want to get him in a camp because he can play for sure. But D, I know you wanted to get into Cam Kitchen a little bit, and I know that the scouts, again, even after the bad numbers that he put up the other day, there wasn't some sort of panic and surprise that he did that. He earned a lot of people's respect by going out there and testing, even though he wasn't 100%.
So one guy I wanted to talk about was Cam Kitchens, because when it comes to Cam Kitchens, I understand he didn't test very well. Also, as Pete mentioned, he wasn't 100%. So factor that in. But to me, if I'm drafting a safety, I'm the Miami Dolphins or team I like, or any NFL team, I want Cam Kitchens on my squad. Number one, the guy is an unbelievable ball hawk. You're talking about 11 picks in the last 2 years. Number two, the guy's exceptional character, interviews off the charts, playing hurt. And number three, look, the testing is bad, but the position that he's playing, if you look at the NFL draft over the past few years, and the guys that have succeeded at safety, they have not all been great testers. You're talking about Kevin Byard, right? You're talking about Jordan Poyer, Micah Hyde. These guys are not unbelievable testers, but they're guys with instincts. They're tough guys, and they're guys with great intangibles for the position. So that's what Cam Kitchens brings. I would put him into that mold of player, and obviously he was a great game. When it comes to James Williams, he reminds me a lot of Jaron Kearse, who's entering his 9th year in the league right now. I think he was an undrafted guy, but he's entering his 9th year in the league, really hitting the stride the last few years with the Cowboys. James Williams, they're both 6'4", safety linebacker hybrids. Kearse was 215 in the combine. Williams 231. Kearse ran 4.62. Williams ran 4.65. Kearse a little bit on the jumps, but very similar given Williams' larger size. So to me, I think he can play that role. Kearse didn't really find a niche until he got with the Cowboys deep into his career. So hopefully James Williams can find a team that suits his skill set. But I'm excited to see what both those guys do in the pros. Now, I mentioned earlier that Mario had 6 guys that could be drafted top 100 ahead of any Miami player. I wanted to go into their physical numbers a bit, just so you can compare to what you just heard from the Miami Hurricanes and see the different physicality and trait level of these players that Mario signed out of high school. Now, some of them transferred after he left. DJ James transferred to Auburn after Mario left. Trey Benson transferred to FSU after Mario left, played with an injury while Mario was there. And then Kingsley Sumateo, who I'm butchering his name, he left to BYU to be closer to his family. So these are not guys necessarily that finished their career at Oregon, but they're guys that Mario signed. So look at these numbers. Jackson Powers Johnson, a center that Mario picked out of the state of Utah, who was a good prospect and is going to be a first-round pick most likely. 6'3", 328. It's almost 30 pounds heavier than Matt Lee. 32-inch vert, which is more than both of our safeties. 8 and 8-inch broad, and 30 bench. So, I mean, this dude, Kitchens had a better vert than James Williams for Jackson Powers Johnson, along with that 328-pound frame and 30 reps on the bench. Troy Franklin, wide receiver out of San Francisco that Mario signed on the West Coast. 6'2", 176, 4'4", 140, speedster, 4.31 shuttle, 39-inch vert, 10-4 broad. So this dude this guy was very productive as well for Oregon, another potential first-round pick. I mentioned earlier Kingsley Sumatea, another guy that Mario plucked out of the state of Utah, like Jackson Powers Johnson. 6'5", 326, 5'0", 440, 174 split, 28 vert, 9'2 broad, 31 bench. This guy was a better athlete by far than Leonard Taylor on the testing, despite weighing about 30 pounds more, just to give you a perspective of what this guy brings to the table athletically and the level that Mario was recruiting at in terms of physical traits. This, to me, is the most interesting evaluation. It's just somebody that I'm about to get to who I first spoke about back in September of 2018 on the CanesInSight forums. Little plug, check out the CanesInSight forum. 6.7 million hits. We're always talking about under-the-radar players, guys from all over the country, guys from South Florida, guys like Medmon, Go Get It, great posters, great football guys that are always bringing new prospects to the table. And I try to do so as well. It's Dolph, another one that does a great job. So one player that I identified was Brandon Dorless out of Deerfield Beach, originally from Calvary Christian, a smaller school, private school in Broward, transferred to Deerfield Beach. Basketball player, was not as big then as he is now, but you could see the great frame and you could see the great athletic ability, the ability to penetrate. And he just was somebody that had a lot of upside, and he's realized that upside at Oregon. Mario came in, this class of 2019, this is the Manny Diaz transition class. Mario came in to Deerfield Beach, got this 3-star Brandon Dorless, who was better than any player by far in the 2019 class that Miami signed. So Miami signed a full class in 2019, guys that Manny Diaz had recruited. And Dorless, who was right on our doorstep, was better than all those guys. Cristobal went across the country to get him. Look at what he did at the combine. Tremendously explosive performance. 6'3", 283, 4.85 40, 168 split, 30.5-inch vert, 9.3 broad. So Dorless and the guy is rising and was already a productive player from South Florida. Should have been a Cane. Trey Benson out of the state of Mississippi. Now we're getting into guys from the deep South here. Trey Benson from Mississippi, 6 foot, 216, 4.39 40, 33.5-inch vert, 10 and 2-inch broad. You saw what he did to us at FSU. Very explosive back. He had a serious knee injury while Mario was at Oregon and then transferred after Mario left, so didn't really get to see him there. In retrospect, Mario should have taken him to Miami. I think the injury might have been a concern for Mario. Obviously, he's recovered, and you see his explosive ability. Lastly, DJ James, another guy from the deep South that Mario got to Oregon. I mean, what a transition that is. From Mobile, Alabama, 6 foot, 175, 4.41 speed, ended up transferring back to Auburn. Somebody that Mario tried to recruit when he came to Miami ended up going to Auburn. So those are 6 guys that could be top 100 picks with tremendous physical traits. I just went through those combine numbers. A lot different than what we just went through with Miami. So what does that tell you? That Mario sets a high bar as far as what he wants physically. And he's able to recruit guys to that level and get them to come from Mobile, Alabama to Eugene, Oregon, or from Mississippi to Eugene, Oregon, or from Deerfield Beach to Eugene, Oregon. Now he's at Miami. He's on a more attractive destination. He's getting higher rated classes. So you hope to see that now we're getting 6, 7, 8 guys that are going in the top 100 with those physical traits that when they go to the combine, they put on a show instead of a disappointing performance like we saw this weekend. All right, and want to switch gears from the combine and the draft, which we're going to be talking about all up until the draft, different angles. Want to kick to Pete. I know, Pete, you were at the basketball game yesterday, and you had some thoughts on basically how we look, which from what I could see is more of the same with the ball handling issues.
Yeah, D. And before we get into that, of course, this segment brought to you by our friends at Closure Investigative Agency. Is your ex-partner failing to pay child support? You deserve better. Let Closure Investigative Agency help you. Let's go get your money. Background checks, cheating spouses, corporate investigations, legal investigations, insurance investigations, employee theft investigations, domestic services, missing persons, surveillance services, and more. Closure Investigative Agency. Contact them at 561-437-6080 or info@ciagency.net. 5-star Google rated, and the entire state of Florida is covered. So yeah, D, of course, I'm out at all the games, and last night was just a microcosm of the entire season, right? You have, a team that finally everyone is healthy to play, beating a pretty bad Boston College team by 10 in that first half there. Nigel Pack bangs knees with someone else out there, and the wheels just fall off. I mean, they ended the first half, I think, up 4, but Boston College, their big man, who was giving Miami a tough time last night, hit a 3 to end the half, and you kind of knew going into it that could be a momentum swing going into the second half. And then just sloppy play. No one can really take over, right? Pack is a shot maker. We understand that. But to me, it was, and I'll play this clip now from Coach L, but it was really one of those things where you're missing the 2 guys that you've missed all season long. No one can step up and really stop the bleeding. When you aren't in that flow offensively, this team really missed someone to step up and get a bucket. And I'm going to play right now the clip from Coach L post game, which, I mean, again, sums up the season.
It just seems, as an outsider looking at the team, there isn't that, I don't know, that hunger, that energy, that attention to leadership, all of those things that made last year's team so good, ball movement. What happened, do you think?
Isaiah Wong and Jordan Miller graduated because now the game comes down to players, So last year, if we needed a bucket, I went right to Isaiah or Jordan, one of those 2 guys, and invariably they would deliver. All right. We don't really have that this year, haven't had it all season long, where, we need a bucket down the stretch. Who do we go to? This year, it's been, guys wanting to take on that role of Isaiah Wong or Jordan Miller, but you really have to have the skill set because, you don't just score. You got to really have the skills to put the ball in the basket time after time after time.
So as you guys see there, Coach L, I mean, look, he said guys wanted to take over that role, D, but you got to have the skills to do it. Those were his words. I mean, he's basically saying we don't have the guys to essentially go get a one-on-one bucket when we need one, right? So he was obviously, it seems like Coach L has been pretty frustrated the last few weeks. This is a team on an 8-game losing streak. And look, they're obviously not making a tournament, probably not making the NIT unless they go on some sort of deep run here in the ACC tournament. But obviously, very disappointing season, big recruiting class coming in. And we will get more into a full season breakdown here in the next few weeks, right? And kind of what went wrong. But last night was a summary of the entire season. So I'll kick it back to you here, D, as I know we're going to get into another Canes sport.
And before we get into Canes baseball, we got to talk about our friends, the folks who are just a godsend to the Canes baseball program and are hardcore fans and hardcore supporters of us and Canes baseball. That's Sallah Astarita Cox.
Sallah Astarita Cox is a boutique law firm focusing on securities regulatory matters, broker, dealer, and investment advisor regulation, white-collar criminal defense, complex commercial litigation, and securities arbitration and litigation. The firm aggressively represents clients throughout the nation. Their lawyers have over 100 years of collective experience handling securities and white-collar criminal matters, including investigations, regulatory proceedings, and enforcement actions in federal, state, and administrative courts. Contact them at 561-989-9080 or visit salahlaw.com. Back to you, D.
So to me, there's two ways you could look at Miami's 7-6 victory over Stonehill in baseball yesterday. On one hand, it's a dogfight with Stonehill, which is not a very good team. Miami was down 6-1, really just struggling offensively for much of that game against a team that they couldn't even throw strikes at times. So there was a poor opponent and you played down to your opponent to a certain degree. However, the other way to look at it, which I'm optimistic is the way I look at it, is that's a game, that's baseball. Those things happen. It's a game you have to pull out, which they did, able to reverse a negative trend on Wednesday where they dropped some games that they probably should have won, ended up winning this one with a tremendous comeback, starting with Blake Sear and the 3-run home run, a guy who's been in a slump, one of the best players, if not the best player on Miami's team. Need him to get going, hits a 3-run home run, sparks that comeback. A couple other positives besides Blake Sear starting to reemerge is you have the bullpen starting to take shape in terms of some guys you can count on. Nick Robert, Javi Salas was on this podcast on Monday and really talked up Nick Robert as a potential linchpin of the bullpen, just a freshman. And then you had the return of Brian Walters, obviously the brother of Andrew Walters, Miami's All-American closer. Brian Walters is coming off an elbow injury, comes in, just completely demolishes Stonehill in the 7th inning, throwing mid to high 90s and really giving the team a lift, emotional lift, both from his performance and the fact that he was back from his injury. So now you got Walters and Robert in the back of the pen, and you're starting to get a little identity with that group. And to me, the big takeaway from Canes baseball as we sit here in early March is the best players on the team are all sophomores or below. I mentioned Walters coming back. He's still only a redshirt sophomore. Robert's a freshman. Torres, the first baseman, who didn't have a great game yesterday, has been one of their best hitters. He's a sophomore. Daniel Cuvée, the superstar third baseman who had the game-winning hit yesterday, for true freshman, and then Blake Sear, who had his comeback game yesterday, really starting to get going, sophomore. So really look at all those guys, plus Jimenez, the shortstop, who could be a good player down the road, another sophomore. The talent is concentrated in those two classes, so you hope to see those guys continue to grow. Miami to add to that with talented freshmen and then potentially bring in some portal guys, maybe some portal pitchers from the mid-majors like Javi Salas has been suggesting to round out that team. So that's really Canes baseball where they're at, about to enter ACC play. Things will get interesting, and we'll be covering it like no other here at the Canes Insight Daily Podcast and on CanesInsight.com. All right, switching back to football. We talked about a little yesterday. I was hyping up that Restrepo catch. I saw it live. Now you've seen the video, and if you haven't, we're going to pull the video right now. Pete, get that thing queued up. So if you haven't seen this catch I was talking about from the Wednesday practice, here's your chance. So I'd say that's pretty much worth the hype. The thing the video doesn't really show, which you had to see live, is he sped up to catch that ball. So not only was he contorting and doing all that, but the ball was thrown seemed to be an overthrow based on his size and where he was at, but he sped up, did not slow down at all while contorting and making that one-handed catch while being interfered with. So just an unbelievable play. You saw the video. I'm glad there was video. Shout out to Cam Gorby and his team for putting that out. And it was even better live. So Restrepo, one thing I want to say about Xavier Restrepo is there was that whole ridiculous thing of people trying to push him out to the portal, the minority of fans, which, those folks are insane. I mean, I can't even understand where that thought process begins. But let's say you want to typecast Restrepo as he's 5'9", right? He looks like one of these Patriot slot receivers. So you say, okay, he's just a slot receiver. He's just going to get open and catch the ball. First of all, that's important, but let's say that's what they're saying. He can do that. What happens once he catches the ball? He's also the best run after catch receiver we've had in some time. He's a running back with the ball. He's running people over. He's breaking tackles, and he's always going forward and getting consistent yards without dancing around and being a fool. So after the catch, he's tremendous. Then you talk about contested catch scenarios. Well, he's only 5'9". You saw in that clip, he's someone that can make contested catches. He's not as athletic, nearly as athletic as Santana Moss, but he's kind of like that in that he's so competitive that despite being 5'9", he wins in these contested catch situations. In fact, go back to when he was a true freshman and we played Alabama. Sorry, I think it was a true sophomore. We played Alabama. Team was getting destroyed, punked at every single turn. And the only guy that made any kind of play was Restrepo making a contested catch late in the blowout to at least preserve some kind of score. So that's what he does. So now you got a guy who's can get open and catch the ball like a slot receiver, can run after the catch like a running back, can make contested catches that bigger guys on our team have not been able to make. And then on top of that, he's a great blocker, the best we've had, and a great special teams player when he plays special teams. So we need to start looking at Restrepo not just as a slot, not just as a limited player, but as a complete college football receiver, one of the best pound-for-pound football players in the ACC, and someone that Miami is very lucky to have, and is going to have a monster season if everybody stays healthy with Cam Ward. So excited to see what Xavier Restrepo can bring. And again, appreciate you guys for tuning in. Don't forget to like and subscribe to this podcast. We are going daily. It is not going to stop, 5 days a week, plus emergencies, plus post games, plus a ton of stuff, interviews. We are coming through with tons of content. It's going to be hard to keep up. Only way you're going to keep up is if you like and subscribe and sign up for the CanesInsight.com board and forums, because that's coming even faster than the pace of this pod. So thank you all. Huge year for Canes Insight, huge year for Canes Sports. Thank you for tuning in.